You take out. Now this is fertilizer. Of course, fertilizer is dung. So the question is, when can you put the dung out into out in the field in the form of large piles? When is that permissible? So it's not permissible at the beginning of Shemitah because it looks like you're preparing your field for planting during Shemitah. So it's only permissible to do in preparation for the 8th year. When is that permissible? Mishi Pasko of the Avodah, once people have ceased, the goyim has ceased working during the 7th year. In other words, once they're no longer going working, so everybody knows nobody's planting for the 7th year anymore. It's for the 8th year, so therefore you're allowed to put out your dung. You're allowed to do. No, you're allowed to. It's not like Shabbos. You're allowed to prepare for the next year. When the sweet moisture in the ground is dried up, Rabbi Yossi kosher. It says when the ground gets all dried, literally means tied into knots, but it means it gets dried into clumps. I forgot John Gemara, yes. Achlo Pasko of the Avoda, Maushe Mutar Sos Ashmo Pesach Chatzero. And before the Avodah Zarah, not of the Avodah Zarah, but rather those who are working out in the fields, before they stop working, is it permissible to make a dung heap on the opening of your yard? Not out in the field, but in your yard. You're allowed to make a dung heap there. Silonei, certain individual, Shal Rabbi Chia Barba, Va'asarla, and he prohibited it. Rabbi Chia Amar no, Sharale. Could be it's a different girsa here. Okay? No, but it doesn't make sense for Amarle. V'Amarle, it would have to be V'Asarle. Because then it goes on Rabbi Chanina. I don't know, do you have Rabbi Chanina? Who do you have? Nobody. Okay, well, I have here Rabbi Chia Barba, he asked Chia Barba V'Asarle. Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Chanina said no, Sharale. The truth is Rabbi Chia Barba were Maz Matirit. V'Avu Normin, and they said, you know what Rabbi Chanina Barba was Matirit? Do Nosav, because he was taking Meiser Minei. In other words, he was a Levi. He was taking Meiser from Silone, and therefore he was kind of bribed, and therefore he was matir for Silone to put his dung out in his yard. V'hori al Garmei, never Chia Barva paskin about himself, an amazing thing. Lotzis l'chutz loretz. Since people were choshesh him in Eretz Yisrael, they were suspecting him that he was pasking improperly because of his vested interest of getting Meiser, so he made Yerida. No, people shouldn't be choshesh anymore. The low mace of Meiser, so wouldn't be taking Meiser anymore. Interesting. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. So you see, you're allowed to move to Chutz La'aretz in order to not be suspected of taking bribes. Okay? I've never seen I've never seen this brought down, but it's an amazing Gemara. It's not we're going to see another amazing one in a moment. Me'ato, if that's the case, now this me'ato is not going back to the Mishnah. If the issue is the Marasayin, so if that's the case, afilu mishapasko over the avoda, even once the people have stopped working, you also name Marasayin should be also to put stuff out into the fields because of Marasayin. Now we haven't seen this dichotomy. The Gemara assumes it that a beis habal, meaning a field which only exists on rainwater. So there's a certain time when you no longer could use fertilizer for the 7th year because you're waiting already for the rains of the 8th year. But an irrigated field, the fertilizer might be beneficial throughout the year. Because by an irrigated field, perhaps you'll plant in the late summer and still raise something, grow something. So ask the Gemara, hey, if that's the case, you should never be allowed to take up fertilizer even after people have stopped working, because maybe people will be choshen that you really have an irrigated field as opposed to a rainwater field. So it says, people in the city know if he's got a base of shachin or not. Rabbi Yisrael said, this teaches us, this is amazing yisoid. We don't take passers-by or I should say guests in the city, into account when determining Marasayin. Marasayin is only based on the determination of the people who are residents, not people who are passing through, because otherwise here, we should have to take into account the fact that people who are passing through the city won't know if he has a Beis Habal or Beis Hashalchin.
That apply to Kalayim also? Or?
And it seems to apply to everything. I see here, he brings down the Magen Avraham brings it down, Simon Reish Mendal, which is Hilchos Shabbos. Reish Mendal Tzif Kot and Vav. So, it seems that there's a principle throughout Halacha.
Interesting though, they didn't mention it on Kalayim.
That's not in the Bible either. Yeah.
I'm sure that either way. I don't to say that Marasayin that it's only dependent upon somebody who lives there.
Yeah.
Even expand beyond just living there. Somebody who knows.
So aware of the situation, nonetheless would suspect something.
What's that?
I was aware of the situation and nonetheless would suspect something. To him, Marasayin applies. Is that what you want to propose? Huh?
Somebody who knows, if you know like other people in the area, the whole concept of Marasayin that you don't have to necessarily live there per se. You just have to know about the people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's something.
Yes, there's some sort of the. He brings out again. He brings out the Magen Avraham and Noda B'Yehuda also deal with this question. So obviously it was known to the poskim, but I don't recall coming across anywhere else. Bisur Shnei Prakim. Now we learned previously that there once was a time when one was severely restricted to malacha, either from Pesach or Shavuos, from before Shemitah. So during that time, can you take your what can you do with your fertilizer? Nishmina minadol. Let's learn it from this case. The time we learned that Brisa Moichrim what seems volume Yerushalmi Shevi'is, when it's allowed to sell and take out dung with those people who are working during Shemitah, Oivre Aveira, people who are transgressors. When it's allowed to work with them and not be considered Messiah to Oivre Aveira ad Rosh Hashanah. Up to Rosh Hashanah, v'yimagoy v'yimakuti, you can even go take out dung when you sell it to a goy or to a kuti, afilu b'shvius, even at Shemitah itself. However, there's one caveat: you cannot unload the buckets. In other words, the buckets which hold the dung, that you can't unload because that's already helping them in the actual process of dumping fertilizer in the field. That's forbidden. What you can do is, as we said, help them take it out to the field. So all it says is you can't unload the buckets. But you can take it out. Or that it's permissible right up till Rosh Hashanah. Because say it's forbidden, you should not be allowed to take it out with them. Okay, getting back to our Mishnah. No, not the Mishnah itself. I mean, now he has a header here. I don't know if you have this header. Mishiba Shamasok.
Yeah.
You do have the header this time? Oh, that's cool. Mishiba.
It's not a header. It says Mishiba.
Okay. It's the text, but it's really a header from the Gemara, from the Mishnah. Mishiba Shamasok. Once the moisture is gone, Pekua. That means the ground, the land is split. In other words, you see little cracks on the surface, right? So then that's considered ready to be a time when you can take out the fertilizer for next year's planting. Aramuna Pekua the Bakasa, when the fields in the valley are splitting open. Mishiikshar Mishiatsuk Sharim Ksharim. Once it becomes clumps. Once there's a clump on the superficial level, it's considered dry. The title of concerns Mishnah, Krovin Divrei Leo Shavin. Rabbi Yehuda says when the sweet moisture is gone. Rabbi Yossi says when it becomes clump, they're more or less the same shiur, except Rabbi Yehuda is slightly more makel. It's a little bit earlier than Rabbi Yossi, probably by a matter of days. Okay, going back to the Mishnah now. Really going back to the Mishnah. At Kama Mizabli, how much fertilizer can you put out? At Sholosh Ashbosas, you can put out 3 dug heaps. For each measure of Beisah, which is 50 by 50, shel eser mashpelos shel lesech, and each of these 3 dung heaps has 10. Let's call them bucket fills, each of which holds a lesech. Mosima Hashpelos, you can put more than 10 bucketfuls per dung heap. Mosima Hashpelos, but you can't make more than 3 dung heaps. Because the more dung heaps you make, the more of your field is automatically, underneath each dung heap fertilized. So therefore, 3 dung heaps, no more.
The land is dry and cracked.
Right. Well, no. This is yeah. Right. Even land is dry and cracked. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Afal Hashpelos, you're even allowed to add on to the amount of dung heaps. Rabbi Yirmiyah said. Now the Gemara is going to discuss what the pshat in the Mishnah is. Rabbi Yirmiyah is a pshat which the Gemara rejects. The Chor Rabbi Yirmiyah's pshat is very difficult. So going back to the Gemara we're up to. Rabbi Yirmiyah. That which you're not allowed to have more than 3 dung heaps is when you have less than 10 bucketfuls per dung heap. Now, that's one issue. So therefore, if you add 10 bucketfuls per dung heap, you can have even 4 or 5 dung heaps. That's one kula Rabbi Yirmiyah was making. A second kula is habishtayim mutter. Let's say you do have less than 10 bucketfuls per dung heap. You can still have 2 dung heaps. You just can't have 3 unless you have 10 per. But 2 you can have even with less than 10 per. Okay? Rabbi Yossi, boy, but here means boy, not just he asked the question. He refuted that which Rabbi Yirmiyah said. He said, if you have less than 10 bucketfuls, hashtayim aser. Then 2 is for sure aser. Right, this is the way to read the Mishnah. Ba'osa, even if you make yoiser mikashir, more than 10 bucketfuls, you're still not allowed to have more than 3 dung heaps. That's it. 3 dung heaps is the max. No matter how many bucketfuls you have to pile them all into 3 dung heaps. Ain't most even mashpelos, you can't have more buckets, but nor more dung heaps. You can't even add. That's it. There's a quota. 30 buckets into 3 heaps. That's all you get. Say you can add on the amount of buckets, but not more than 3 heaps. It says more in continuing with the reputation of Rabbi Yirmiyah. That which Rabbi Meir forbade making additional forbade adding onto the buckets. Shear, aren't we talking about when it's the proper shear? In other words, it's talking about even when you're going to have 10 bucketfuls per dung heap. That's it. You can't have more than 3. The Kabbah saw, so to that which Rabbanan said, and we'll see in our Hashpelos also, they said you're allowed to have bucketfuls, but you're not allowed to add dung heaps. But when they, just like Rabbi Meir says, you're not allowed to add even if you have the shear, so too they hold you're not allowed to add even if you have the shear. The only thing you can do is add more buckets to each heap, but everybody agrees, both Rabbanan and Meir, that there's no more than 3 heaps allowed. Okay? So there's not like Rabbi Meir said you're allowed to more than 3 heaps as long as each one is 10 shovels, the 10 buckets. Says the more, that's not the case. Okay, next Mishnah. Osa Adam is Sadeu, Sholosh Bashos Lebeisa. Person makes his field 3 dung heaps per Beisa. V'yosim Mikan. Even more than that. Diva Rabbi Shimon. Which Rabbi Shimon erased in the previous Mishnah. The question is what he's adding here. Well, Gemara is going to discuss it. The Chachamim says, no, you want to add dung heaps, you can, but with the following precondition, prerequisite. The other dung heaps which you add, they have to be either 3 tvachim under the surface of the ground, meaning you have to dig down, or they have to be raised 3 tvachim. They can't be on the level with the rest of the ground, because then it looks like you are, again, fertilizing your field during Shemitah. A person can make 1 large dung heap. 1 large dung heap with 30 buckets on it. Rabbi Meir says you can't even make 1 dung heap unless it's 3 higher or 3 lower. If you add a little bit, now this is a very interesting statement, that if you add a little bit, let's say you had 10 buckets, right? Most people love a holich. You're allowed to continuously add to it. Says the Gemara, no. Rabbi Elazar has to be either 3 up or 3 down. So it has to be on hard rock where it's not going to fertilize anything. Okay, now it's the Gemara. V'lama Tanisa could train Zimnin. Why is Rabbi Shimon mentioned twice? Both in the previous Mishnah and our Mishnah. Rabbi Yirmiyah. Do you have Rabbi Yirmiyah? Yes, but he has Rabbi Yirmiyah. And from this he deduces Rabbi Yirmiyah accepted the refutation. Because this Rabbi Yirmiyah is going to be consistent with what with the way Rabbi Yossi refuted him previously. Here in our Mishnah, it's talking about where you have less buckets, and even that per pile. Even there, Rabbi Shimon is matir. Baram hacha, but hacha meaning over there in the previous Mishnah. Bosek kashir, tell you about when he's oisek kashir, when he makes exact shear. So there, Rabbi Shimon was saying you can add the heaps, but we would have thought you can only add heaps where you have the shear. And our Mishnah is coming to say even if you have less than a shear, less than 10 buckets per heap, you're still allowed to add heaps. We learned this concerning the opinion of the Rabbi Shimon, You can add heaps even if you only have 3 buckets per heap, that's enough. Rameir Asers, Voisa Yeser Mikashi, or Rameir Aser. You have Chacham Moser? Yeah, but the end of the Mishnah says Rameir Oyser Achiyamik. I guess probably the next part of the Gemara he felt was easier explained. We're going to Rameir. Let's see what the Gemara says. Rameir Oser Oser Yoser Rikashir. Rameir Asers to have Asers until you go 3 up or 3 down. That's only when you make more than a kashir. In other words, Rameir agrees you can have a large heap. One large heap, an oitzer zevel, right? 30 buckets. That which Rameir is saying you have to make it either 3 tefachim high, 3 tefachim low, but it's only if you make it greater than 30 buckets. Avo b'shir, but if you make the exact measure of 30 buckets, if b'shloishim mekayim is mutar, the Rameir must concede logic dictates that it's mutar in 3 places. Malka mechel lokoshke, it's certainly mutar in 1 place. Okay, so he learned that's where Rameir. I guess it makes more sense. I don't know. All right. In any event, says more further. Now, what does this mean? He added a little bit. You can keep on adding. Passing law trained Pisrin. There are 2 interpretations to this. Passer had 1 interpretation. He had a little bit already in his house. That doesn't make sense. Unless the next line is different as well. He had a little bit in his house from Erev Shvi'is. He wants to put it into his field in Shemitah. Which lines do you have?
It's on the 3rd line. No, he moved 3 more lines down further.
We skipped 3 lines?
Here it says, the first part right here, it says,
oh, so I have lines before that. Yes.
Well, we have partial train apostle.
Yeah. That's later. Okay, that's later here. All right, so listen to what I have. But I'll read slowly and carefully. Pasuk law train Pisrin. You gave there are 2 interpretations of this. Pasuk had 1 interpretation, which you don't have any of this. Pasuk had P'she'olo davar mut b'so mitoch beiso me'erev Shvi'is. He had a little bit in his house from before Shemitah. V'vakish lotil b'soch sadei b'shvi'is. He wants to take it out into his field during Shemitah. Harei moitzi. You're allowed to take it out. U'moisi v'lav holich. But you can't add to it anything. Whatever you take out, during Shemitah has to stay there. When can you add to the pile? Mishapasko if they have avodah. Or if they have avodah. Once the people who are doing the work stop. For Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, or Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah forbids even this until he says you can't end on. Why? My time with Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Now this is where you pick up. My time with Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. What's the logic of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah? Shem I'm sorry, you can't take out the little bit to begin with. Why? Because Shem Elohim Tzelo Zevel. Maybe later on in the year you won't have any dung to add on to make it a pile. In other words, all winter, what's going to happen is you're going to have a little pile, a pilet there, right? So we want later on that you should be able to add on to it, because later on when you add on to it, you should post go to avodah, so that makes sure everybody knows that it's a dung heap and not fertilizer. Husband Azariah is afraid I'll let you do that. What's going to happen? In the end, you won't have any dung to add to it, and then people are going to say, Yankel fertilizes fields, right? So therefore, he asks you to take out anything unless you have 10 bucketfuls immediately. You must have 10 bucketfuls in order to take out any dung. That's one interpretation. Pasale pasachora. Now another interpretation. Kshelo davar muad b'soch sadeu b'shvi'is. This is your thing, right? No, so that's what we just read. So he switched the order. He switched the order, right? Must have, right? So the interpretation is Kshayolo davar muad b'soch sadeu b'shvi'is. He already had stuff out in his field during Shemitah. I don't know why he changed the order then. I don't know what the point of that is. Hareza Moisevolav, he's allowed to tack on and add on Misha Posko of later on in the year once the people stop working. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Oiser. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah forbids this. Shem Elohim Tzelo Zevel. It's because maybe you won't find dung. Need some Azabel also. Ato also Mokum. Turns out that he was fertilizing that place. Now, be that whole as in May. Now, this line threw me for a loop. I don't know how to read. I don't understand this line means. It seems what. Are we totally? Yeah, there he has it. The last narrow line. Yeah. Now this line throws you for a loop because neither of the pshatim we mentioned, whether according to my Girsa or your Girsa, said that was already fertilized from before Shemitah. I guess because even the first yeah, so, but we didn't see that here. Yeah.
Which means that whatever you're adding on in Shevi'is is
yeah, but we didn't learn that anything's done from before Shemitah. The Gemara is introducing a new concept. Yeah, it's an assertion, right? So I wrote it on my margin. It seems it was clear to them that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah asked us, even when you began putting out the dung from before Shemitah, but you're not even allowed to put out a davar muad from before Shemitah and then continue on during Shemitah. I don't know where the Gemara knew that from because we haven't discussed that yet. But Elazar ben Azariah, so it says the Gemara, be as it may, based on that assumption, the lo kvar mezubal u'me'erev Shevi'is. One time. All right. The low kvar mezubal u'me'erev wasn't already fertilizing before Shemitah. Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbun Bar Chia M'Shem Raya Bar Memo. Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbun Bar Chia said name Rabbi Bar Memo. Yes, but nonetheless, Mivnei Marasayin. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah asked because of Marasayin not shioti eser mashpelos kachas until you take 10 bucketfuls out at once. Ask the Gemara V'leisei Rabbana Mivnei Marasayin. Hey, this is very logical what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is saying. The Marasayin. What happened to Marasayin by Rabbana? Amar Ravidi said, and I have here Girsa the Min Chutra. Ravidi from Chutra said, Salum Agrefa Mochilov Shoysa Ashma. When he takes out with buckets and with these are two different types of baskets and buckets. So then it indicates that they're doing it for making dung heaps and not for fertilizing. I don't know. So, you take it out in some spreader, I guess. But yeah. So they're taking it out this way indicates that it's being done for the purpose of making it dung. So there is no Meyer sign. Rabbi Yosef Rabun said, Omar, he said, Elay Shmaitza, Shmotza Dacha, the sugyas which you're learning here, Kai the Tzina Tomar, like the sugyas which you learned over there by Chol HaMoed. The Tzina Tomar we learned over there by Chol HaMoed, the Elizabeth Azariah Omer, Einosim Esa Amo, you're not allowed to make a canal, to begin with, or irrigation canal, b'moed of Shevi'is, both in Chol HaMoed and by Shemitah. Why? Rabbi Zira said, when you make an irrigation canal, you put the dirt, which you dug out of the canal, onto the sides of the canal. It's onto the banks. And that's a good place that makes it fertilized, because that's, the rich soil, which you just dug out of the ground, and it makes it easier to plant on the sides, on the banks. So therefore, that's also the same type of marasayan issue, right? That's why we forbid it. Okay?
And how could you take the dung and put it 3 tvachim below the ground? Isn't that a pure like fertilizer?
Since it's all marasayan issues, only made a shinui, chazal or mekel. The shinui is what the concept is, right? Because the truth is, there's no explicit instance to prepare land during Shemitah. To prepare land at all during Shemitah is not the Isser of Shemitah. Ella what? It looks like you're planting. That's the whole thing. So once you made a shinui, so chazal or matir it.
Shinui is putting it
3 tvachim below the ground level. Right. Normally they just put it on the surface, opposed to digging a hole deep to 3 tvachim. Okay. Rabbi Yirmi, Rabbi Bum Barachi B'Shem Rabbi Aramam Memel said, Mivnei Marasayin. Also because Marasayin, a different kind of Marasayin, he brings down at the bottom, Marasayin that it looks like he's hoeing. Havum Boy Meimar, and they wanted to explain, and this is not it's not just a Havamina, but rather they will explain this way. Mada Martavine Marasayin, he says that it is there by Chol HaMoed, is because of, it looks like by not by Chol HaMoed, by the canal, is because of hoeing. Here it's because of Marasayin. Manda Martamona, however, according to opinion says over there, because we're preparing the sides for planting. What over here is the problem? In other words, why over here is the Mayisayin? It's like we said previously. Maybe all you'll find, you won't find any additional dung to take out to make a full dung heap, and therefore, as Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, "V'nim says mizabel osamakom." Manafik mi ben what's in between the reasons, where the reasons because of looks like you're preparing the ground, or looks like you're hoeing. So chafar lasos ama shel binyan. It's when you're building to make not a canal, but you're building to make a foundation of a house. Amo is lav davka. Doesn't mean a canal, means a furrow for a foundation. Mada martama mibnei marasayin. He says marasayin clothes look like it's hoeing. So marasayin is also relevant in this case. Mada martata looks like you're hoeing. Mada martata nation machshir tzeh Israel. However, he said that by digging the canal, you put the water, the dirt which you which you dug out on the sides, that prepares it for planting. Here that's not relevant. It seems the Kavanokis that's not relevant because they don't put, where they're building a foundation, they don't put the dirt around the foundation. They cart it off somewhere else to an illegal dumping site on the south side. Okay, so since they cart it off somewhere else, so therefore there's no problem of that looks like fertilizing. Tani, we learned how that if we put the fertilizer, you had their limestone or some other pottery deposit, or you had pebbles or stones. So then, of course, it's mutter to put the dung on top of that, because everybody knows you're not fertilizing because the stuff underneath is not suitable for planting. Okay. Now, there's an alternate way of fertilizing your field. That's to put pen animals out in your field. Because what happens when you put animals out in your field? They fertilize, right? So therefore, they put severe limitations on corralling your animals during Shemitah.
But isn't there something, the whole concept of fertilizing has to do with pounding of people or animals on whatever's laying out for a long time?
Well, they would do it here. The animals themselves would trample it. Yeah. They would grind it in, yeah. Hamadayir is Sadeu. If somebody wants to make his field into an animal pen, a deer is an animal pen. Also, Sar basis time he can make a sar means a corral, an enclosure for a base sign. Now, what happens when he wants to do the next one? So he takes off the 3 fences and leaves the middle fence. As you see here, this is the first corral is over here on the right, and then he leaves the fence on the left, and he takes the 3 other fields which comprise the enclosure, the 3 other fences which comprise the enclosure, and moves them to the next side to the left. So he gets a base osaim and then another base osaim. That's all he gets during Shemitah. 2 corrals. He's not allowed more corrals. That's his quota, because then it looks like he's fertilizing. Okay. That's all he gets 4 soin. Shingal says you get 4 corrals. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, according to Rabbanan, 1 wall must be in common. According to Rabbi Shimon, only one peg is in common, because you keep turning the 4 walls around your larger square. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Okay, so if his entire field was forced in, right, which even Rabbanan are matir. So what do you do? Leave a little bit where you don't make a pen because of Marathain, but the rest of it you can make a pen. And you take and not only that, but you're allowed to take the dung from outside your pen once the pen is complete, and put it into your field according to parameters which learned in previous Mishnah. Talmud learned over there. Soda needs kavto, a field from which the thorns have been removed. Tizara motzai shvius. You're allowed to plant it motzai shvius, even though you did some improvements to the field during Shmita. Nitaiva, if a field that ever was plowed, or shnidaira, or made into an animal pen, lo tizara motzai shvius. It can't be planted motzai shvius, because you did improper preparations during Shmita. So we fine you. And now Mike Moore adds, and here how can you say then that you can make pens in your field? It says in our Brayta not allowed to make pens. Rabbi Yehuda said, Kini Masnisa. This is the way to read our Mishnah. There are 2 reasons to be Mako. A, he really wants to keep his sheep safe. He's not doing it as a ruse. Needs it for a sheep. Besok stay within his field. B, Oseh Besar Beisasai. Here also, what's a compelling reason we make the fact that he made a small pen to confine them in. So therefore, it's clear to anybody who looks on that he's not doing his preparation in the field, but rather just as a means of penning up his animals. Anything can be the fence of this pen. Whether it's reeds, uvikash, or whether it's not reeds, reed mats, kash or straw, vavonim or stones. But even a 3-rope arrangement, one atop the other, like a fence. Now, you can have more than 1 sar, but between each sar, there can only be the 1 sar in between. Now, by that we mean, it's not clear to me what exactly it means. I think it means, according to the Kama, it allows you 2 sar in. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that there's a common wall between the old sar and the new sar. Rather, it can be a distance between the 2, which would be the amount of distance of an entire sar. They don't have to be immediately adjacent to one another. And once you allow that, that place between the 2 sarin, you're allowed to bring the goats there, whatever you have there, to cholebo, to milk them there, and the gozizbo, and to shear them there, and you can bring the sheep over there, even though they're going to excrete as they walk by. We don't consider that to be a problem. Mershid Omer, Beishmona Soyev 18. Tan Rabbi Shimon Beloz Omer, Imroit Tokeh Bosa Yossi Boretz. Koresh Gamliel, you can put a peg in the ground in the middle. Both a sign Arba, you make 4 signs. Ba'abru Chosel Shishmona Soyev, the 4 sides of the 8 signs. It's like a clockwork thing. Tani, by the way, do we do a blot yet? Blot and a half, right? Tani, we learn. Ein Medairin lo b'Shabbos, lo b'Yontif. You can't make a pen not on Shabbos, not on Yontif. Lo b'Chol Shmoi Nari L'Chol Moed, afilu b'Toiva. Now, of course, a Jew can't do this. It's obvious. So, but even a Goy can't do it for you. Even if he does it just for a favor. Tova means just a favor. Yeah. It's malacha. Now let's do, well, it's not building, but it's working the land. Now let's do any work on the land during a Chol Moed. Zilch, 0, nada. So this is not forbidden. Okay? That's what it says. Right. Laundry. You're also not allowed to have a shomer there. Now, what does a shomer do? This vav here is superfluous. Lo and I said so. They were catalysts for excretion. The shomrim. They would shake the animal till the animal defecated. So that's not mutter either, or during any of these periods. Okay. V'im bo me'alein. What if the goy came on his own? Messiah, so I'm not allowed to help them in this endeavor. Really, Osimo b'Shabbos yoyin tovim. Now, although the Gemara is cryptic about this, the Kavanoki makes this very much halacha l'maisa. Let's say a goy was a hired laborer, not by the hour, but rather by the job, and he wants to work on Shabbos and Yom Tov, so to Sunday he can go to the beach, right? So he wants to get the dung out moving on Yom Tov, so on Sunday he can take a day off. So he's allowed to do it. For their own benefit, who are Shiloh Shiv Shomer, in that case he's allowed to say, well, you guys came here on your own accord, then you have to have one of you be the Lenaris and so on, shake out the sheep. So in this case, if they come on their own, when they're coming, again, in order to make up a day, so then you're allowed to help them out.
So they're getting paid by the job, not necessarily.
Yeah, they have to be paid by the job. Well, I guess. Yeah. Okay? Tana Rebbe Omer b'Shabbos Medayim b'Toiva ad Shabbos. He argues in the previous case. He says on Shabbos you're allowed to have a goy come and make you an animal pen, but only as a favor to you, not by paying him. On Yotav you're allowed to pay him his food. If he was chayil, you're allowed to pay him full wages. What happens if you went to Hertz, rent the sheep, and rented a sheep? You're not allowed to shake it out. Why? Because the owner expects you to use the dung. He doesn't expect you to shake it out. I'm not making this up. This is what the Gemara says. What? Yes. Gets even more interesting. How do you do this niur? How does it work? Make it walk around a lot. Now this is only true where you hire it for a limited amount of time. But you hired it for a large amount of time, then you're allowed to shake it out. Because obviously then the owner took it into account that you're going to shake out. But the last day before you return it, the last 24 hours, also then you're not allowed to shake out, because then you're leaving with mamish nothing. Rab Yaakov said, since that is the case, we learn from this that somebody's going to attend his needs. He's not responded to, meaning he's constipated. All right, it's not coming out. So you should walk from place to place around, and he'll be answered. Because we see here that the way you shake out the sheep is by making them walk from place to place. Rabbi Yehuda said, Chafuraisa ikar. The roughage of a plant literally means that when you have wheat, you cut it early when it's still in the animal fodder stage, before it's fully developed. So now it's only roughage. It's not a proper plant, not a proper grain. So that's good. That's primary, literally. And that's good for the digestive system. So they knew the concept of roughage way back when. Okay? Obviously, it takes away constipation. Actually, I asked a question. Before the the goyim stop working their fields. They're permissible at that point to take stuff out of your pen and put it into your field, in accordance with the parameters we learned previously, or do you have to leave it in the sar until after Shemitah? The Gemara doesn't resolve the question. Okay? A person cannot open a quarry in his backyard unless you can get out from 3 rows of stones, which are 3 by 3 by 3 in height. It's 3 amos by 3 amos by 3 amos, which, by the way, are 27 stones, because each stone is considered to be an amma by an amma. Okay? Shiur and B'srim Shiva Avodim, which takes 27 stones against minimum. Anything less than it looks like you're taking stones out of your field in order to prepare your field to plant. Right. Major quarry like that would be permissible. That's correct. Okay? Says the evening class, then 9 times 3. Hey, Yerushalmi Shevi'is is 27. I don't know why we have to learn the math. Okay, Tani we learn. Say you have a quarry between you and your friend's field on the border, and your friend already opened it up from before Shemitah. It's permissible. You continue to drink Shemitah even if you don't have that large a take of 27 stones. You might say Reiko, but if your friend already finished using it as much as he's going to use it, and you want to start using it, so to speak, afresh, also, then it's forbidden. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry, I went to the Gemara without telling you. Okay? You caught on to that? Okay, going back to the Mishnah. By the way, what halacha turns the page? Halacha 8 turns the page? That will be 2 blot, halacha 8? Okay, so it's very easy. The rest of it's just easy. You want to take a fence out. You want to take a fence down. Of course, if you take a fence down, it also looks like you're preparing your field for planting, right? So if it has 10 stones, each of which can be carried by 2 people only. They're very heavy. Then you're allowed to take the stones, and not just these large ones, but even smaller ones. That's the minimum, though. You must have 10 stones, and you must have a fence, which is 10 tefachim high. If you have less than 10 stones or less than 10 tefachim, you're allowed to take away the stones, but go and flatten it down. But at you must stop when you're within a tefach of the ground. But you can't clear stones all the way down to the ground, again, because of Marasign. But when is it true? Out of your own field, when of course it looks like you're preparing for planting. But if you're doing it in your friend's field, so you want to move a fence to your friend's field, it doesn't look like you're preparing for planting because it's not your field. But it's true. You didn't begin prior to Shemitah beginning. But if you began prior to Shemitah beginning, then he can continue to do so on Shemitah itself. It says in where Tamatanina. We learned over there in Kalim. Where is this? Noelos. But this is Tumatara. Haziz maybe is Satura B'choshu. Now this is, I don't know why there's a difference, but he says Aziz. I have no reason to disbelieve it. Protrusion. If this is your wall, and here you have let's say, you have a gate in the wall, right? 2-dimensional picture. Here's your gate. So Aziz is a protrusion which comes down like this from the wall. Okay? So even if it's less than a tefach, normally a ceiling, in order to generate tumasol, has to be a tefach wide. Here, even if it's less than a tefach wide, it still generates a ceiling vis-a-vis tuma because it's considered to be part and parcel of the doorway. So as long as the doorway tacks on some dimension to it, which inevitably it does, so then the ziz itself doesn't have to be a tefach. Okay? However, a gizra, which he learns, now I'm going to a side view. A ziz is like this, where it's facing down. A gizra is like this, where it's facing up. Okay? Don't ask me whether there's a difference, because I don't know. But there's a difference. And in this case, it must have a tefach. This is not considered to be a continuation of the doorway. Different kind of protrusion. You remember that from Olos? You learning Olos? You know everything.
No.
Yeah.
I have to tell you.
You learned all of Olos?
Can I give a shiur on it? No. The question is why.
Olos is one of the hardest prakim in Shas. Kaveris. Yeah. Right. No, that's true. Yes, you do have to do that. I went through Shas. Now the fad is a lot of kids do it by their bar mitzvah. So I went through Shas. I was embarrassed that I had not done it by my bar mitzvah, and I did it when I was 20. So I went through Shas Mishnayos. But very little retention. Even though I chazered it, there's almost no retention. So in any event, but be that as it may, when the way the kavnoculus goes up, it needs to have a tefach in itself, and also a gavlis. The next case is where it goes like this. Looks like a gutter, and a gutter also must have a tefach. So I guess, and probably thinking of it that way, these are more made for the rainwater. They're not part and parcel of the doorway. Where it's facing down, it's more part of the doorway, because it's not going to hold the rain, right? So when it's facing like this or like this, so it's made for the rain, and therefore, if you want it to have the chashivas of a sili, it has to have a tefach in and of itself. Okay? Again, there could be other pshatim. That's what he says. So they require poseach tefach. Now, be it as it may. That's not what's important to us. What's important to us is the rest of the Mishnah, which of course the Yerushalmi doesn't bring. The rest of the Mishnah says that we're talking about a ziz which is higher than the Pesach, higher than the door by shlosha nidbachim, by 3 rows, shein yud beis tefach, which are 12 tefachim. Now, so that means we're talking about where there were 3 rows above the door. Let's make this door smaller. Okay, so here you have your 3 rows above the door. And here's your door. So we learned that between in 3 rows there's 12 tefach. That means how wide is each stone? 4 tefachim, right? So it says the Gemara, Hadamara. This teaches us. So far, we're not going to ask the Kasha. We'll ask the Kasha in a minute from our Mishnah, but not yet. Otherwise, teaches us. A person contracts to build a row of stones from his friend. He has to make him 4 tefachim, which is the size of a row of stones. That Mishnah Olos tells us that when they say Aziz can make the tumah no matter what its size, when the Aziz is higher than the opening by 3 rows, the law Matzina Nidbach, why does it mention what the size of a row is? Lamida Sadin for judgments, literally, it doesn't mean literally judgments, it rather means for Cheshem Mishpat, or it's not how large a row of stones is. Now, Reb Chia bar Abba Shol. Now we come to our case. Chia bar Abba Shol. Ilun Shiraya ki. Ilun Shiraya is our Mishnah like the Shurim in our Mishnah like that Shurim there in Olos. Chiz be'Yaakov Racha b'Shem Rabbi Yossi ben Rabbi Yossi said, yes, Ilun Shiraya ki Ilun Shiraya. They're both the same. So says the Gemara. Wait a minute. That's the case. There it says that the shiur of heads is 10 tefachim. Pachas mikain, if it's less than 10 tefachim, mechatsev, you can take it, but you have to leave a tefach. Over there we don't say that. There we say that it's 12 tefachim. Doesn't seem to work it's either 8 or 12, right? A fence there, by definition, is either 2 rows or 3 rows. So 2 rows would be 8. 3 rows are 12. How do we get 10 in our case over here? Okay? So Gemara gives a very interesting answer. I don't think the Bavli holds to this. Says Gemara, but man, okay, what are we talking about here? How do we reconcile the two? Now, he has the next 3 words, which you probably don't have. In Tamar, shayu shnei nidbachim, like I just told you. If there were 2 rows, it should be 8. If there were 3, it should be 12. Let's finish the end of the kasha. Rabbi Yisrael said, chati tefach l'sisus mikan, chati tefach l'sisus mikan. Every stone has a half a tefach on it as a border, which is then polished smooth. So a 12 tefach, 4 nidbachim, even though they begin with 3 nidbachim, even though they begin with 12 tefachim of raw material, since where the stones meet, you polish each one smooth, you end up with 10 tefachim. That's on the face of the wall, isn't it? On top, really? Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. That there's a half a tefach. Although it starts off 12, by the time you've layered the stones properly, you lose a half a tefach on each side where they meet, right? So in other words, the top row is not smoothed out. The bottom row is not smoothed out, but where the 2 rows meet in the middle, so they're smoothed out. So I drew a little picture on the side of my Gemara. So over here they're smoothed out, and over here they're smoothed out. So each of those loses a half a tefach on either side, which is 2 tefachim altogether. You get 10. Okay. Okay. Says the Gemara, Tani we learn Bachos Mikan Eino Lo Godeh V'Lo Machatzeif. If it's smaller than even it doesn't have neither tefachim nor it doesn't have. Well, he just says it doesn't have 10 stones, which 2 people carry. So then you can't take you can't take any more than the very largest stones. The very largest stones, which require 2 people to take, those in fact you can take. But let's say that leaves you with 3 tefachim above the ground. Tough luck. That you cannot remove. Where are we taking me to gomim up to a tefach from the land, where you have enough stones, 10 stones of 2 tefach, each of which is carried by 2 people, but you don't have 10 tefachim of them. So then you to take away your fence, but must leave a tefach. But where you have don't even have that amount of stones, so you can only take the isolated stones that are that large, and you cannot take anything else. Okay. When is this all true? Because man, she's covered, he could say what he's doing in order to fix his field. But if done to fix his field, even if it's more than this, it's permissible. Harshon says no. That which our Mishnah is matir is only where you didn't have a mind at all to be masak in your field. If you have a mind to fix your field, even if you take less, it's also because that's also to Shvita to fix your field. Rabbi said, Rabbi Yossi came Tanoi. He also taught both the Shitas in Tanoim, but he taught Lakula. In other words, as long as your intent is not to take it, is not to fix your field, you can even take more. And this shiur is permissible even when you had a mind to fix your field in the process. Okay? Says the Mishnah further. Do we do 2 blot yet? Okay. Time.